Hello, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the advanced version of the Reader's Notebook, and this is for grade 5 through 8, but of course here we're only doing grade 5. So we have the front cover where students would put their name and their school. Oh, your notebooks have 5 tabs: reading list, genre study, mini lesson, writing about reading, and the glossary. Pretty much every piece of this notebook is utilized. So the inside front cover has guidelines for the reading workshop. So you can discuss with your students what your expectations are during your literacy block and add or take away anything that is on here. The first tab is for students' reading list. So something I used to do in my classroom is students would do a 40-book challenge. For the older students, since the chapter books are bigger and larger, I would change that to maybe 30, the 30-book challenge. And so students can, you can have students put in their required number of books for each of the genres. Because, yes, you could say do a 30-book challenge, but then students may read 30 of the same book, and we really want to expose them to different types of genres. So that's why this inside tab is formatted the way it is. So you can put a list of the number of books you would require students to read from each book till it totaled up to about 30. And then students can tally how many books they've read so far from that genre. The back of that begins their reading list. So students can record the books that they're currently reading by putting what book number it is, the title of the book, the author, the genre code, which is listed in the genre studies, I believe, in the beginning of the reading list, it has the genre code in parentheses, and the date they completed the book. Now, something else you can have them do is include whether they abandoned the book and put an A there. And I used to do a mini lesson with my students describing what it meant to abandon books and when it's appropriate to abandon books and when it's not appropriate to abandon books. The next section is for genre studies. So this goes into the different genres that you would teach your students. And then also this is really helpful during your interactive read-alouds, because when you do a genre study during those interactive read-alouds, you can put the working definition book examples that you've read with them, and then they can add books that they've read their own and any noticings as you're doing the genre study. So this is a really cool section of the Reader's Notebook. The next section is for mini lessons, and I would use these for notes, mini lesson notes. Here are some expectations that you could have for your mini lesson notes, and you can add or take away anything from this. And the back side of the tabbed page is really neat because it has different graphic organizers and charts that you may want to go over with your students. And really cool, if you look at these, they look very similar to the ones that they may see on the SOL test. Now, I know in 5th grade, you may end up having a third circle when you're comparing and contrasting. Sorry, the coloring's not right there. There we go, a third circle. So when students are taking notes, you can have them on the blank lines, jot anything down from the notes. They can glue in notes. At the beginning of the year, maybe glue in the graphic organizers, and students can record on the graphic organizers. And then towards the end of the year, students can draw their own graphic organizers. So there's lots of ways you can utilize the mini lessons section of your reader's notebooks. Of course, always modeling your expectations as you go. The next section of the reader's notebook is the writing about reading section. So this is where students will reflect on the books that they are currently reading during independent reading time. So this front section has a description of different ways that students can write about their reading, whether they would like to sketch out a picture, or fill out a graphic organizer, or write you a letter about their reading. And what I would do is definitely model each of the types that I would want my students to do. And then they can tally up when they complete a type, so they can see, oh, you know what, I really noticed that I tend to write letters to my teacher. Maybe I should try doing a double column entry next time. And then it has guidelines for checking writing, and you can go over this as a mini lesson as well, or add anything that you would like to add to the guidelines. A sample is included of a letter. Suggestions of ways students can write about their reading. And then the lines start. Now, something that's really cool is there's so many different ways that you could have your students write about their reading. And something I used to do as well is when students would stop and jot during their independent reading, they would stick those stop and jots in their notebooks, and they would utilize those stop and jots to write long about their reading. Any way that you would like your students to reflect on their independent reading, this is where they would put it. Again, model how you would like your students to record these, which is why it's so important to have a teacher version of your reader's notebook so that you can model for them as you teach. And then last but not least, we have the glossary, which has a glossary of literacy terms that students can refer to. And then later, it's really cool, the terms are continued. The back cover of the book is really cool because it goes into how to talk about reading and how to have a good book discussion. So this kind of aligns to when later in the year you start doing book clubs, or when you may want to have students do book talks, which they're doing in morning announcements. So these are great and would be mini lessons all on their own. Well, that's about the end of our quick walkthrough. Let me know if you have any questions or need support in how to use your reader's notebooks in your classrooms. Thanks.